What if it was possible to have local, fresh groceries delivered right to your door? Think of all the free time you'd have. Well, Instacart gives unlimited grocery delivery for one low monthly fee. Forgot that special ingredient in your favorite dish? Instacart can deliver it to your front door in as fast as 1 hour. You can shop multiple stores, see deals in your area, and save time and money. I've been using Instacart for over 3 years. I started using them in Arizona, and I'm using them here in Florida. I love the time-saving convenience. They pick the freshest products, and they keep my eggs safe too. To receive your first delivery free, follow the link in the show notes so that Instacart knows that we sent you and to help support the show. Instacart. Never step foot in a grocery store again. Welcome to Empowered Within, a soul-quenching, transformational podcast that will set your soul on fire through candid and inspiring conversations. Leading experts, celebrities, healers, and I share our journeys of how we've overcome challenges to living an empowered life from within. I'm your host, Jennifer Pilates. Welcome to another episode of Empowered Within. Welcome to the show, everyone. Today's guest is Amy Vasterling. She is a status quo challenger who's been intuitively reading energy since she saw a yogi floating outside her classroom window at the age of 7. She's a public speaker, writer, and founder of the Wisdom Gathering, an event for the deep thinkers, the secretly sensitive, and those seeking to gain inspiration and clarity through self-discovery and intuition. Welcome to the show, Amy. I'm so happy you're here today.
Thanks for having me, Jennifer. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so let's start with, how did you really begin to understand your intuitiveness and your skills and your gifts?
Well, it was a long journey. It hit early. I literally we were in the middle of a spelling test in my first grade classroom, and my teacher was upset because I was totally checked out. She shook my shoulder and screamed at me. And I looked across the room, and I was outside the room, and I knew it. And then there was a yogi floating next to me, and it was the 1970s. I had no clue what a yogi was, but it felt safe. So I just knew that's where I chose to be. And the kids in the classroom were at spelling word 8. Like, I was really checked out. Oh my gosh. Right. So it was clear, that was safe for me. And then when I was about 16 and 21, I had my body move without me moving it. And that comes from claircognizance. Everybody has intuition in the way of our heart field, and another way as well. And so it saved me from somebody stealing my moped in high school and getting a parking ticket. And the meter person, I yelled and said, "Stop, I have the money." And they said, had I pressed the pen to the page, you caught me right then, I would have had to write you the ticket. So it impressed upon me later in life, all of that was showing me it's good and it's safe. It's not going to hurt me, and it's not going to hurt others. And then when I was in my early 20s, I saw premonitions or seeing things before they happened, and they were nothing of consequence. I'd say to my husband, we're going to be at a bookstore or a coffee shop, and a book's going to fall off the table. And then 2 weeks later, that would happen. Just simple things. And he'd look at me like, what? How do you know this? And then when I was 27, I saw that I would die when I was 34. And spoiler alert, I'm way beyond that. But it really left me wild inside. I was really scared because all these things had come true. I couldn't make sense of it. I didn't know what it really meant. And I'm clairvoyant foremost, although I have all those senses and am able to tap into on all the ways. So what I did with it is I am fierce. I have a gray streak in my hair that showed up just out of the blue when I was 17 years old. And I started shaking my fist at the sky and swearing and saying, if you want me to do this, you bring it. You bring the foundation, how to turn it on and off, what I need to do. And so I didn't feel very level-headed, but what happened is I pulled it apart and realized, and I'll speak for people who have a really intense experience like I did, it's just really the universe saying it's time for you to really show up in this, and you're skilled at it, so you don't deny it. And that's where we have fear-based experiences. That's what I've learned. And I believe that message ultimately was about a spiritual rebirth, but I still don't have all the information on it, but I know I will. Mm-hmm. It'll come to pass. So then in my 30s, I spent a lot of time honing this skill and starting to read for other people. And over the past truly 2 decades, I've honed it really nicely. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's so amazing. So for those people that may not know what a yogi is, they're assuming that you saw someone practicing yoga floating outside the room. Will you describe what a yogi is, what you saw?
Yeah, it was a man who was East Indian. with his legs crossed, wearing all white and a white turban floating next to me outside this classroom window.
Wow. Has he ever showed up since?
Not, but when, I have a lot of friends that are in this ilk of kind of universal knowing and so on and holistic. And some of them have said your Vedic astrology chart really shows you have a lot of Vedic and yogic energy or experience. So I'm just guessing my energy is synonymous to that. I have no interest in yoga. I mean, I think it's great. There's nothing wrong with it, but, and I've done it for a while. It's not what I seek. So I'm not sure why, but he was an effort to me. Also, there was a time period where I'd do readings for people, and I would see a master show up in the guides area where these people, looking at their guides. And sometimes it would be a yogi, and sometimes it would be a Native American chief. Sometimes, but it tended to be somebody who had a lot of spiritual discipline or understanding. So perhaps we have people or energies we're likened to, I've never explored it. You're the first to ask that question.
Yeah. Well, if, that's assuming one of your guides who always shows up to guide you, and then you'd want to dive into the lineage to go, well, yeah, where does he come from?
Right.
Yes. Okay. To be continued next podcast. I love it. So there's something that I read that you wrote, and it really struck me and it gave me pause. Your perspective on intuition is that it is not a gift, but it's a skill. I would love for you to elaborate on that. Why and how did you come up with that perspective?
Yeah, it's a birthright for all of us. And like I said, claircognizance, which is our heart, we can send energy out of our heart and receive energy in and read it. But there's also clairsentience, which is our clear sensing. It's in our kind of our gut instinct. So everybody has it, and it's not something that will ever go away. It's not like you're a piano player and you get really good at it and you break your hand and you can never play again. This is always with you. There are times it will ebb and flow. That's going to happen probably to everybody. But for me, what really tipped me, and this is getting kind of into my personal story a bit, is I grew up in a home that was really challenging, which I've said what my mother and my family life created for me. There's no way I could have gotten that education anywhere else. I couldn't have paid tons of money at a university to get that education. So it was primal and important for me to get it. So I understood. And my mother is my greatest teacher for sure. However, as a result, my intuition kicked in pretty tight, pretty early, because I had to be about 29 steps ahead, right? These people are smart, they're quick, and so on. And I had a sister die. Well, she took her life in 2010.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. But it really dawned on me, I would be the next in line to be the scapegoat in my family, carry the majority of my mother's shadow and be rejected and take the brunt of the abuse. So I stepped away. But what I realized is, in my family, we are flight risks. We are high emotion, brilliant in the creative arts area, all of us. And I realized that knowing at that age of 27, I was so undeniably connected, even though it was bothering me and it was hard. I knew I was connected. And I think for me, it was a gift to me, not a gift that I have, but it was to keep me in that track of knowing, even when all the chips are down, that is so strong for me. I'm so empowered as a reader. Nothing troubles me with that energy. And being a human is a much different experience, right?
Isn't it though?
Yeah, right. Learning that way through as a human, but having this model of something that is constant made me realize this isn't a gift that I have. It's an ability so that I can stay put, so I can keep and stick with myself and stay empowered to the best ability until I can fully empower. And my eyes are on that, right?
Right.
Always like, I'm headed there.
So when you take that and you bring it back to the point that you said that you had a premonition of your passing, and now you're past your passing. Do you understand how that came to be, came to be?
Absolutely. And that's a really good question, because it's like, well, see, you're not very accurate. And Jennifer, it took me years to trust that I could actually hit. Like I said, I come from a highly creative family. I thought, I'm making this up. But then you read for thousands of people and it's like, you can't hit that well for thousands and thousands of people. You start to really trust. But as a matter of that premonition, what I learned through pulling it apart, and I don't even know that I asked. I think my intention was, oh my God, bring me support.
Right.
And influences started coming, like the law of attraction and small bits to help me understand and pull it apart and make sense of it. But what really came is somebody that was or is a psychic said to me, Amy, it might be that it's a metaphor. And it was an old serif font that was red. It was like an egg tempera, which, I mean, I'm an artist, so that makes sense to me to recognize that's what type of paint it was. And it felt like this looming and impending death. And she suggested, could it be a spiritual rebirth? Could it be, she's like, I don't think it means what you think it means. But I think I liked that she didn't really flesh it out for me, because I'm nearing 50 and I still don't have the full answer. But Jennifer, about, I don't know, probably when I was 42, I was having a conversation on the phone with a friend, and it was like a brick hit my chest. And I knew more about that premonition, but I don't really know that I can articulate it. And so what I'll say to you is, if you have something like that come up, you will never forget the question if you really want the answer about anything. And it will come to pass that you learn, but maybe it's not time for it to come to pass. That 34 could be 34 years. It could be 34 cycles, or right. And that one I know to let go and let it unfold as it wants to. It's not worth chasing it.
Are you ready to lose inches, increase strength, and tone your body from head to toe? Are you ready for a total body, mind, and spirit transformation? I am excited to announce that I am launching my exclusive 8-week Pilates Return to Life training program. This will give you an opportunity to have a total body, mind, and spirit transformation of health and wellness to a new lifestyle. Imagine in 7 days you will feel a difference, in 14 days you will see a difference, and in 8 weeks you will have your new Pilates body. So what do you say? Want to join me on the mat? Head over to jenniferpilates.com today. Space is limited. Use a special promo code EW and the word special, EW special, to receive $200 off while space is available. Head on over to jenniferpilates.com and I'll see you on the mat.
Yeah.
I love that, how you just broke that down. It's so true when you're a spiritual person, and everyone is. I think some people mistake that there's this one huge moment and boom, you're spiritual. It sounds like our lives are quite parallel. For me, it happened from when I was very young, but then I didn't understand it till I was much older. And then I look back and go, oh my gosh, like you, this has protected me in so many different areas of my life and situations. It's rather amazing. It's not, a lot of people get nervous when they hear like, oh my God, the Kundalini awakening. And the stories, I mean, I was there. When I read about that a couple years ago, I went, oh, yeah, that doesn't sound like something I'd like to partake in, God. Like, I'd like to go left. Right? Yeah, I'm good right where I am. Thanks very much. Everyone is so different. And you're started so young and it's changed. And I agree with you. I think very much metaphorically, it was perhaps maybe the passing of one life as you journey into your next part of your life, which it sounds like you are full speed ahead. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Absolutely. It's an unfolding. And I believe that some of us had it young and we were the precursor to something bigger because of where we're headed, right? We're the future in a way. And it's tough. It's tough to live through the past of what people were living in the past, you know? What? This makes no sense. We're all about connection. And it seemed like a lot of our world was about disconnection when I was a kiddo.
Yeah, I totally get that. How is your life now, day to day, with your intuition? How is that with your family?
Yeah, well, you know, when you say this or ask this question, it really changed how I thought about parenting when my kids were little. And I went after something different than what most people go after. They normally do the opposite of what their parents did or some form of that. And I actually broke free into this power space with my kids. So that was one empowerment awakening I had that was massive. And it took me about 8 years to realize what actually had happened there. I couldn't articulate it like maybe I could now. But now I feel like I'm at this other space or apex where it's time for me. And it's almost a natural time at the age of my children. They're leaving the nest and so on, but really branching out and speaking out because I am a status quo challenger. And for me, for whatever reason, you know, that I felt a bit, the mom role, the so on, all these roles that I was playing, and so now I'm empowering in the way of my career and getting out there to speak and say, this is what the future looks like. This is how it is. So I would say, though, with intuition at my side, there have been moments that intuition didn't serve, personal intuition, when I was really learning how to read for others. I'm not sure why, but it's as though my ability to read for myself waned. I couldn't hear it as well. And I simply trusted that it would come back and get stronger and be better once again. And it did. But that was a struggle for quite a few years. But now I'm at the place where I'll watch a TV show and I can say that man's going to have a heart attack in the next 10 minutes in the show. And he does, and he dies. Or,
right.
And so in a way, life gets a little bit boring. I don't know. But it's like, well, if I can guess all those things because I can sense at a really deep value, things become very different, And once you go there, which is something I really struggled with in my 30s, once you go to a different place with your intuition, you really can't go back to where you were before.
Right.
And that felt really lonely to me. It was just my experience. But that was part of, I think, that empowerment surge of like, okay, you're empowering into this ability. And, for me, the focus was pathway of least resistance. How do I do these things the most simplistic way? Pathway of least resistance, which to me leaves me most empowered.
Have you noticed, are your children as gifted as you are? Has that come through?
It has with my one child. So when they were little, they saw somebody sitting in our hallway, a child. They had gotten up from a nap, and the name that they said the child's name was not a name they had never heard. And it's not a common way to say that name the way it's spelled. And so I knew something was going on. They were probably 3 or 4. And then about 3 more times until they were 15, they had experiences. And I simply coached them on the sideline saying, did you need to be afraid of that? Or what else could you have done, to help them shore up their thinking about it and empower without any pressure of, oh, be careful. Or I don't do any of that. I don't protect or do any of those things that most people do. I found another way. And then when they were 15, I said, I think it's going to be okay with these 2 clients. Would you read for them for 15 minutes each? And I'll record it and I'll email it to them and see what they think. And both of them, independent of each other, said that kid is as good a reader as you are.
Wow. What a compliment.
Thing for that kid to catch up to it because they could see it in action and assimilate. There was no telling them how to do it. It was on their terms to figure it out. And I teach that now. I call it everyday intuition. I teach once a month for people to learn passively how intuition works. And people hit in extraordinarily. Like, I can't even believe how they hit right out of the box, no experience whatsoever. But it's not hard. It's that we make it hard, and trusting it, to think we aren't being forthright or we aren't getting it can be really scary for people. Am I doing this right? Which I think is the greatest thing. It's like, you care so much, you want to get this right. You don't want to sell people a bill of goods or,
Exactly.
You really want.
Right.
Yes.
And I love that you brought up a little bit of the topic of protection. You caught my eye, I went, ooh, wait, what are you doing? Because do spill the tea, girl. Like, help an intuitive empath girl out.
That's right. Exactly. Whatever again, I'm fierce. I'm not afraid of much. And yet I am. As a human, I am silly, and I won't be always. I'm on that right now. But as an intuitive, many years ago, I finally said there were a lot of people talking about demons and evil. And I know for me, the ability for me to read energy dark, every time I've asked, is about emotions. And I know who I am. I'm, in a way, anchoring darkness, and I can go to a deep, shadowy place with my clients, and it doesn't scare me at all. And I can talk them out of suicide because I meet them at that place that shifts it all. Really powerful. Not that I'm talking them out of it. I say the thing that heals the space that was going to create that anyway. So that I really have that ability, and that's my penchant, is the darkness. But when I went out there, what I was told is it's malevolence is how the universe told me to say it, which, if you look that up, is defined as, evil and demons. So it's like,
I know, I was going to say,
I call it malevolence. And when it would come along, I would say to it, what we really could do on earth too is say, what do you need? I'm not meeting it with resistance or fear. And for whatever reason, when I have clients who describe a situation of intensity for something that they're seeing or experiencing, like I had a 10-year-old child who's getting choked at night and was actually choking. And there were these big black dogs that were emaciated and really gross looking and slimy on her. And I said, they're trying to get your attention for you to take control and they want you as their leader, really, is kind of the deal. And so I can see that when people start telling me what they're seeing, I can go there with them and see that. So for some reason, that's natural to me to be able to go to that scary. Mm-hmm. But I met this thing and I just said, what do you need? And it tried to tell me. And I said, I don't know anything about that. Like, I really wish I could help you, but I don't even know where to begin. Like, so I wish you luck. And I'm so sorry that I don't have the tools to help you get where you need to go, but you're going to find it. Right. And it walked away and left me alone. So the other thing that came is what creates malevolence is being misplaced, displaced, or misunderstood. And so because I teach about parenting the highly sensitive child, which is a personality type, it's not a disorder. They're really unique kids. Kids in America grow up, 90% of them feeling misunderstood. So they already have this connection to what we'd call malevolence, right? They're going to resist. They're going to buck the authority. Mm-hmm. And I always say, boy, get on it when they're 3 years old so that you make a good driver out of them. Right?
Yeah, that's great advice.
Right. So if you have those three things out of whack, like say that you came from a war-torn country, you're misunderstood, displaced, and misplaced. You're going to have a lot of intensity, a lot of this shadow and intense emotion going on behind the scenes. And that can create for reactivity, and it can create for things to kind of go wrong because your energy's all out of whack and you're not aligned. So when we think about that on Earth, if we said to somebody, hey, what do you need? I don't even know how to begin to help you, but I think you're going to work it out. People would probably be a lot happier, right?
Right.
As they let go. It wouldn't be this expectation that, oh, I'm needy and I'm a victim. We'd lose that standpoint and say, anybody's going to help me. I never know where I'm going to get the darn answers. Somebody out there's going to know.
Right.
And asking, just like as an intuitive, that's why I'm empowered, is I ask everything. I say, I don't get that. You show me the deeper meaning of that because I want to know. I'm like, let's see this. Let's really get to what matters and the core.
In general, do you have any sort of practice of protecting your energy, maybe before, or clearing your energy before you go into a reading or after?
None.
You're just good. You're not wearing your crystals. You don't have crystals in your bra, not in your purse.
I kind of say this to people that have a lot of crystals. I have a friend that's so into it. So I have some because I'm like, okay, we're at the store. I'll get some. That's pretty.
Right. You have to.
What I feel is I met this man who went up to Canada with a giant truck and extracted this giant piece of amethyst and took it home and paid $50,000 for it or something. Wow. And I said to them, why couldn't you have just called on the energy of that where it was in the earth? Do you think that it needed it there in the earth? I mean, I don't know. So that's my position, is I'm always pathway of least resistance. Now in parenting, that shows up very differently. And a lot of parents might say, is that the right way to parent? But if we look at, we each have a journey and there are shifts and turns that we have to do. And we allow those things and we realize, I mean, that's the one thing too, Jennifer, that I haven't said is when I first started reading for others, I put out a whole bunch of decks of cards, of oracle cards. I don't read with a tarot for a certain reason, but people pull whatever cards from whatever deck. And from the first card to the last card, it cycled back to the first card. It was a circle. And by the fourth time I said, I can do this. And then what I realized a little bit later is I can do this anywhere. It's right here with me. I'm never free of it. So, I mean, not free of it. I'm free in it. Like I can do it wherever I want to do it. And I even did a reading on an airplane once when I was sitting next to me crying, Yeah. And I'm like, I didn't say anything, but then I said, okay, universe, if you want me to do this reading for her, you make it available. And the pilot got on and said, the plane is delayed. Something's wrong with it. We're going to put you deboard and go back out to the main terminal. And I turned to her and I said, I can read about that situation. You can meet me and you'll see me, but I'll sit someplace alone in the terminal and you can find me and we can do this. Right. So it's like, miracles abound, I think, when you're aligned, correct?
100%. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah. I don't, except for sometimes my own intuition, if I'm driving to an event, I remember going up to an event once and it was like, pray before you go. I don't often pray. I mean, like probably once in every 10 years. Oh my God. But I was like, right. I was like, pray about that that show, pray about, like, ramp it up, kind of like law of attract, but in a way of collaboration with the universe or God and my own creator within. And boy, I had a crazy rockin' show, you know, but part of me is like, just live the life that you get to have in front of you. You don't have to work too hard at it. This falls in alignment with it too, is I say, don't keep a gratitude journal. If you need to start out spiritually and do those things as a mechanism to start understanding this ebb and flow, fantastic. That's an awesome time to do it. But if you get to a level where you're like, that gratitude journal, and I got to do that. I got to do that. You're forcing yourself into something to try and trick yourself to be grateful. So what I say instead is the pathway of least resistance on that is, I swear, is it okay if I swear?
You go, girl.
Okay. Fucking attend to why am I not aligned? And attend to the discomfort of your lack of alignment to having gratitude be natural. Gratitude's easy. It's so easy for us when we're aligned. And if we aren't feeling that, why the fuck aren't we? What is that about? And fill in the pieces, because then you don't even have to work at it. You will be grateful. And I realize we're moving from this highly narcissistic and control-laden environment into this unknown web of what the hell are we headed toward? And so I get it. We need those concrete sequential tools. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying it's not a long-term strategy. If you really are going to arc into this and lean into it, you can go with very little need to do much. It's so simple.
I'm going to assume you don't have a vision board.
I don't.
I didn't think so. You don't need it.
I also, when I need to meditate, I flip and stop what I'm doing and I sit down and I meditate. When I ride my bike a lot, and I think it's my city horse, you know, a lot of lifetimes I had horses, right? And I paddleboard, like I do those things because I need to be in nature and with water and all these things.
Right.
And I cross country ski because that's water. That does it for me in the way that I need. But I know what I need. Like, I need to get in the sauna, or I need a bath, or I need to do an ionic foot bath. You know, like I follow it based on what is the need now. And if I can't get to it, I even had a scenario, actually, when that sister of mine died. I was driving to a store and I was picking up art supplies for an art class and then for my own art. This woman had gotten swerved in front of me, and I had kind of gotten ahead of her, and she came behind me, but she thought she could just come over where I was. So she thought it was like, she acted as though she was going to have road rage on me. And when we got to the parking lot, I knew we were headed the same place. And I said to her, I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened there. I was coming into this lane and you're still in that outer lane headed toward the stoplight not far away. So I didn't think you were going to come my way because there wasn't much space or whatever. And she just flipped out at me, and I was so shaken by the time I got to the door of the art store. So I got to the door of the art store, and I just thought, be creative. What do you need? And I said, you know what? I can't be in this upset state and remember all the junk I've got to get. So bring it back for me. And I'm the most agitated person you're ever going to meet. Like, you know, I can't let things go to save my life, right? At that time in my life, especially. And I said, bring it back to me when I can really deal with this. I forgot about it. I forgot about it, Jennifer. And I got halfway home on the highway, and it's as though when you're driving in such heavy rain, you have to pull over because the wipers can't even go fast enough. I was crying that hysterically out of the box. And what came up is I didn't really grieve my sister when she passed. And my siblings said, you know something we don't know, right? But I didn't know what that was. And I was like, I don't know. But what happened is I grieved that my sister was the main shadow of my mom. And so she took the brunt of the abuse. And that was her spiritual gift to the other siblings, is we were protected by her because she was a tricky person, right? A tricky person to connect to and know. But look at that. So this big unfolding came out, but I simply said, I can't do this right now. I couldn't get hysterical at the store. And so I wouldn't get the lesson. And I got to have parameters to say, bring it when I can do it. The universe knows that, right? So we have a lot more power and ability. We're not on the terms of the universe. We are in collaboration.
That is a wonderful reminder for everyone. It's a collaboration, and it takes action. If you want to align with something, you can't just sit here and wish it. You got to go for it.
You're also going to have boundaries and needs.
Do you ever have, I'm wondering for our new intuitives that are coming into play, so to speak, into their own, if they're like, oh my God, I walk into the store and all of a sudden I'm getting hit with somebody's energy and all of a sudden I feel weird and I don't know what it's trying to do or say, or it just doesn't feel of the light. Does that happen to you? And or what advice do you give to someone?
Sometimes it does. Like if I tune in, there's a ton of anxiety at airports, and I love airports. Like it's one of the most fun places for me to be. But a lot of people are like, oh my God, the anxiety and all the energy, right? And so again, it's pathway of least resistance. So I don't barrier myself. Instead, when that energy comes to me, I say, what do you need from me? Or I look back at myself. Like I say to moms and dads, but mostly moms, don't worry about your kid because you just created an energetic shitstorm for them that you don't really want them to have. They're driving the car and you're worried about them driving the car. And now they have a split second decision and there's this chaotic energy and they're like, what do I do? What do I do? Mom's in my head. Deal with yourself, mom. Why are you worried? What have we not said to the kid, or not necessarily, told them, but when we feel the energy, engage with it. Don't push it away. Even if it's scary, it's likened to you somehow, or you wouldn't have felt it in the first place. And I'm not saying it's your fault, but if we really sat down and combed through all of our experiences, we'd be like, oh, I was just at a funeral. No wonder I'm picking up all this sadness when I'm at the movie theater or at the mall where all these people are. No wonder I'm feeling overwhelmed. I just went on a trip and my junk is at home unpacked and I'm trying to, we can see there's a synonymous thing. So we take responsibility, or I say responsiveness to it of, hey, I feel your energy. What are you needing? I'm not going to entertain this energy right now because I can't handle it. See you later. Just a simple.
I love that you just said that. I can feel that there's so many listeners that need to hear this. There's so much light, dark, good, bad, when in reality, there is no good, there is no bad, there is no light, there is no dark. It's all together. And we just kind of have to, find our way through it.
Too is that when I said, I shook my fist at the sky and said, you better tell me how to turn this on and off. I'm not kidding. And I said, you better define the foundation of what the hell I'm doing or forget it, right? I mean, this is stupid. I'm not going to do it unless I know what I'm doing. And the message that came is, everybody says, if everything is connected, or everything's connected, that's what everybody says, right? And it's kind of, to me, this spiritual trite statement of everything's connected. But really I was like, okay, universe, that's great. Everything's connected. But the next thing that came is, if everything is connected was the beginning, therefore there is nothing which cannot be connected. So what I mean by that is that's a statement of logic. And it took me years to figure out. But the difference and the problem that we have with intuition is it's nonlinear, non-time bound. And I couldn't figure that out for a long time. But because it's nonlinear, non-time bound, we get the message. And then look at me with my question about being 27 and seeing that premonition. I still don't have the answer, and I'm way above that age. But we will get the answer. So it's like we might be told, buy that ticket to get on that train, not that one. But you think, but I get to be with my friends, but I get to have fun. But what? Oh my God, I should be on that train with them. But we heed it, and we get the ticket for the other train, and we go. And we end up sitting next to somebody who says, I want to publish your book. Right? We end up sitting next to somebody who has a synonymous story with ours and encourages us to follow our path and blah, blah, blah. And that's how in hindsight we realize. So I had a healing journey, and I said, I would shake my fist at the sky again and say, you let me see what this is all about in hindsight, so that I could tether myself to that, knowing that would come to pass. This isn't rocket science. It's so simple. It's stupid. It's so simple, but we get so complex. We make it so complex. When I say everything's connected, though, in that way, I'm clairvoyant. So I might see 3 random things and have to make sense of them. And if I look at them and look at them and look at them and I can't get a sense of what's going on, you might have to reorient your perception of, oh, look straight ahead. Now all of a sudden the message is clear. Or sense into the things around you. It's about branching and expanding and finding how do those things connect. Just like being at the airport and feeling the yucky energy. Oh, I'm sad. And so their sadness is overwhelming me, because they're thinking.
Your way of not feeling it is saying, hey, what do you need from me? I don't want to feel this.
Sadness. Right. I see you sadness, or I see your sadness. I can't do that. No, thanks. And then I will deal with my own sadness, right? I might sit and meditate for 5 minutes in the airport, or I might take a breath while I'm in line waiting to get through the check,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
To the sensitive person who feels everything, that's me. What do you say to that person? Like what? I mean, honestly, if there is an earthquake around the world, I know that's happening. If there's a solar flare coming, oh yeah, I got that.
Right.
Oh my gosh. Sometimes it's like, really, God?
Right. That's where we shake our fist in the sky and we're like,
yes, enough. I don't know.
It's more common than we realize. And I even spoke to somebody who thinks of themselves as intuitive, but not at the degree that you and I do. And they succinctly said exactly what's going on energetically right now, right? And they aren't even aware of that at that level. But what the deal is with the highly sensitive personality type, Elaine Aron, it's Aron, is the person to look up about this. In the early 90s, she realized she was highly sensitive, and she peeled apart and did all this research. And what they found is it represents 20% of the animal kingdom and humanity in children and adults. And what Elaine feels the reason for highly sensitive people is that we are the people who can see things ahead of when they happen to protect the environment, to protect the people. So it's like this. I think of it as the elephant. The elephant was put in the jungle or the forest or wherever to sense, because the elephant has an incredible ability with their heart field. So do we as highly sensitives, to sense exactly what you're talking about. There's a solar flare, there's an earthquake, there's something going on. And then they're built to run and tromp on the ground so everybody can feel it and be like, crap, the elephants are running, shit's going down, and they can trumpet, right? So the things that are up can hear them, the things that are down can hear them, and get to high ground. And I'll tell you this, I have never met a highly sensitive person who wasn't an altruist. And the reason is we are the type that are like, climb up to higher ground. I will let you step on my head until I drown to get you to safety because you are so important to me. And that's part of the hardship. I mean, it makes me want to cry, but that's part of the hardship of being highly sensitive to you.
I'm crying.
Being highly sensitive is that this world seems unjust to us. We want people to thrive so badly. But you know, Jennifer, the truth of it is, after I did those 4 readings, and I realized there are tough ass souls on earth who I think were chosen by their people, not chosen in the way of, you're so strong. I think they were chosen because they were like, you aren't going to back down in the face of love for anything. You can be beaten and torn and ripped apart, and you will not defer from that place of love. You will continue to bring that forward as much as it hurts. And so for you that are listening to this and feeling like feel so confused, feel so stuck, feel so left out, like I don't know what to make of this, you're the way forward. That's it. You are. And it is hurtful. It is painful because good pressure is what makes things change, right? You look at the mountains, you look at the water, you look at the granite, you look at all the things. That's how it works on earth. We're bound to contrasts, which is the law of attraction, but that's how it is. So if we feel that pain, we will do anything we can to free and move ourselves forward. And we're the wayfinders in a way. But the thing with highly sensitives is 70% of them are introverted and 30% are extroverted. I happen to be a social introvert, so I need time by myself, but I can public speak and do all these things. And then I need to hide away for a little bit.
That's how I am too.
Yeah. So there's this incredible ability with being highly sensitive too, of unique skill sets. Highly sensitives can get bored really fast. They usually hang out in jobs for 4 years and leave it because they're like, I need something new. I need a new challenge. Highly sensitives notice things. And I say this with parenting, what's good for the highly sensitive child is good for every child. But what's good for every child is not good for the highly sensitive child. The sensitive person walks across the street where there's a jackhammer, and it is so much for their body and their experience because they process like 50,000 times faster and higher than other people that are the 80%, that they decide, I'm going to create a solution so that jackhammers can be silent. And that helps everybody. Do you know what I mean? So that's the penchant of the highly sensitive is, if I create something that works for me, it's actually going to work for everybody. So that's also the altruistic piece, which is frustrating because it's like, how can you not see that this is really too loud? It's not good for us, or, so on. So Elaine Aron says in the early 70s, she saw climate change coming. She's like, because I'm highly sensitive. Of course I could see it coming,
Right. So it's so interesting when you know things that are coming and people are like, you're crazy. And I'm like, maybe,
and
maybe not.
We really are. This summer, the energy has been off the rails for trust. And if we can, put trust out about one city block ahead of us instead of having a long-term goal, we're going to succeed if we can keep pushing the trust button like, oh my gosh, everything's chaos. Oh, wait a minute. Focus on trust. I don't know how to trust right now, but I'm trusting.
Yeah.
And because the inevitable thing that will happen is synchronicity is huge and high for us right now, really high, especially favored in the people who are really moving this stuff forward. So hearken to trust just like you are, and you know where you need to be. It's not to say other people are going to get hurt or have a bad experience or any of that. It's like, what's happening for you, that's for you. And I think that that's what's important. My daughter was born a few weeks after 9/11 happened, and our water sources were threatened. And I remember having this kind of panic inside. And then I finally, a week before she was born, I made peace with it by saying, you know what? If we are supposed to have clean water and access to that. We will, and we'll be provided for, and we'll be safe. And if we aren't and we end up dying, that's what it is. Like, I'm not going to stand in the way of that. I can't be upset about this, you know, because it made me think, like, what if I have a baby and I only have it a few weeks because I can't keep it alive? I mean, this is really hard stuff, right? But if we let go and we realize I'm not all that important, you know, if I'm supposed to be here, they'll make sure I'm here, you know, something like you recognize where you need to be for what you're doing. Yeah,
for sure. I would love to touch on, you have a workshop called Tools of the Heart. You talk about the electromagnetic field that the heart holds, and I would love for you to talk about that a little bit. It's very special to me. I had a situation, a medical emergency a couple of years ago, and now with my heart, and now everything that I feel comes through my heart. Every anxiety, every solar flare, everything is here. Now, it used to, my entire life was through my stomach, the nerve things, and now it's all through my little thumper.
Yeah, so in my world, I would call you a healer, is what I would call you based on that. Yes. So what I realized is I heard about heart math, and, you know, they've been around now probably 30 years. And I heard about them, you know, a decade ago. And I grabbed one of their books and I was like, this isn't really my type of reading, but I didn't need to grab one of their books. What I heard did enough for me. And what I heard was they had somebody with their heart being monitored, and they clipped a piece of their hair and put it right next to the person and monitored it independently and gave the person a stimulation like cold, you know, arm in cold water, right? And the person's heart showed on the monitor as reacting to that. And just a second later, the hair reacted to that without the hair being touched or stimulated. So then it made me laugh, but they said they took the hair 150 miles away and did a different stimulation. So the person was surprised again. Their heart elicited the reaction and metered. And a few seconds later, the person's hair also registered the same exact response. And so what they started to realize is there's this heart connection, and we have an electromagnetic field that's a part of our heart. And what I went away with is, I'm a curious person, like ridiculously curious, right? I tell my clients, if you're being too good, I think you need to go outside down the street and take a stick and poke the dog poop that you find. Like, you got to get out of your rigid, like, go push the plant off the edge of the table and watch it break and laugh. Like, so I'm curious. So I thought, okay, I'm going to be at home right now, and I'm laying in my bed, taking a little nap. And I had a cat that I was very connected to. So I visualized in my mind's eye, that could be like when you're reading a book and you visualize what that looks like, the picture that you're reading about. I visualized it, and I visualized it moving from kind of where my third eye is, outside of it, down through my body, out through my heart field. And the message was, bring my cat Smudge up to my bedroom and let him sit down on my feet that are upright. Like I was on my back, so my feet were poking up at a 90-degree angle. Let him actually sleep on my feet. That's weird. He'd normally come up and sleep on my pillow. I mean, totally different, right? So I'm asking him to do something a little unusual. We're really connected. And about 5 minutes later, I heard the front door open and I heard his bell. He didn't go to the food. He didn't go and say hi to the person that let him in. He ran right upstairs, right up to the bed, right up, and sat down on my feet like a chicken on an egg. And I laughed. I was like, I can't believe that happened. So I trained my kids, because we have cats that go out and we live with a lot of nature. So there's a lot of place they can roam. And I said, just practice calling them with your heart field. So if you ever have to get the cat in the house when we go to the cabin or something, they'll come home. One of the cats will come home, no fail, every like 10 or 15 minutes every time. Right. And one time my daughter called me and she was driving up to the cabin by herself later. And she said, Mom, I can't get the cat in. And I said, let me try. I tried, and she was on the phone with you still. And then, you know, waiting a minute. And she turned around, she's like, he's here. Right? So it's about honing it. I really encourage you to send a message to something that is easy, like a pet that's really close to you. If you have 3 dogs, which is the one that is really attuned to you, and then ask them to do something a little bit different than they normally would. Like come in front of you and circle 3 times and then jump up on your lap, or, you know, and they never would circle. But so it taught me, that's how I learned about the elephants. Is I heard the story that the elephants I think it was in Africa, they were in a safety, like a nature preserve, to be rescued. And these elephants came down to the enclosure where they were let in because other elephants were on their way coming to be brought there. They didn't know these elephants. They could feel them coming. That's our kin, right? So I realized that's how I realized the highly sensitive are very much like elephants. We're the whistleblower, like, this is not right. And we can feel that, we can sense that. So that heart field piece is very powerful. Now, a healer driving on a road trip might go past 45 towns and they see one town and the town looks just like the other towns. There's nothing that shows you there's something wrong. But the healer type says something's wrong with that town. And then they Google it and they're like, oh, they had a meltdown at the factory and people got hurt. And that town never recaptured itself. And now I see that, right? So that is also heart field activity. We all have that ability to sense. And it's like the thing where when we had rotary phones, or you could do it now on a cell phone where you've already dialed the person and they were just going to call you. But with a rotary phone, you pick up and there's no dial tone. And I've done that where I said, I'm going to call my friend. I said it in my head and then I dialed her and I had the phone to my head, my ear to the receiver, no dial tone. I'm like, hello, thinking one of my siblings is on or something. She was there. It was my friend. She had called me. She felt that. That's the heart field. So we can send messages and receive messages. If you have a displaced child, I have some clients who have homeless children. You can send them a message through this way. It's not rocket science. It's actually so simple. It is ridiculous. But there's the reason that energy translates and moves through is it's going through the quantum field. So you also can delay it. I did this once with some healing energy. I couldn't heal somebody the normal way that I would do it because we were traveling in the mountains and there were these storms. And I didn't even realize it. My intuition kicked in and I just stopped doing the healing when the storms would happen. And I'd been told you can't do this type because it's too much chaos in the energy, in the atmosphere. So instead I made a ball and I filled it with all the energy and all the love of all the mothers that I know and the master teacher that I know. And then I said, I don't know what the hell to do with this ball. I was like, what am I going to do with this now? And I just said, you know what? I'm going to leave this ball and you get it to this kid at the moment they need it most. And I was about halfway home to my friend's house. And it wasn't until 3 days later, but my daughter and her daughter and my friend were driving home. And about 20 minutes into their drive, her daughter just got off the rails funny, back to herself, being silly in the car. And I realized that's where I dropped that ball, right? But we don't know necessarily when the most important moment is for somebody that's in the hospital sick to give them something that they need. So we can just put the energy out there and ask it to arrive at the moment they need it the most. Right? That's a beautiful intention.
That's an incredible intention. And another way to realize how powerful someone is and that you're really in control of it. Sometimes, again, you learn, people get so caught up in, well, I learned how to do this. I'm supposed to heal this way. Right. And for me, it's very much like what you're saying. Again, looking back over my life, realize I've been an intuitive healer my entire life. And it wasn't until probably the last 5 to 6 years that I honed it through taking a course, but that was to understand it more. But it's second nature, like you're talking, like it's a ball. It's whatever works for you because you're so special. Each one of us is so special. And we've been given what we've been given to help and save and encourage and do whatever we can for humanity.
Well, and Jennifer, that's why I actually encourage or I discourage taking a class only because I feel like they're going to tell you things that might not be true for you. Like, is it necessary to protect yourself? Is there another way? And my other piece of that is if we start thinking that there is a way to do it, we limit our own way. And that's what's important to me. And then how I'm working that pathway with people is helping them seat into their own innate intuition passively so that they're not missing anything and they can expand. But there's trust there already because they're not all on their own. I think that's important because I think the other thing that we've been taught is do it this person's way. And it really is, I want you to have the way you do your intuition. I want this guy to have his and this, because if something goes down or wrong, you might fill in a piece I couldn't catch, right? And to me, that's that altruism again.
It really is. Over the years, do you have inspirational people that have helped you and mentors that have guided you along the way?
No. And Jennifer, I think that's part of my success is I frickin' begged for a teacher. I will do whatever it takes. Please, I'll stand on my head 3 days, please. And for whatever reason, that's why I know how to teach intuition this way, is I'm not really teaching, I'm allowing and facilitating. But I had situations like I had chronic Lyme and it was a nightmare. And they told me there was no such thing as chronic Lyme when I had it. So the doctors pushed me out and told me I was crazy when I was so sick. It was awful. So I had experiences like 8 times. And this just tells me it's like spiritual teaching, right? Where I would sit in my living room floor over the course of like 6 months, they'd come and go, where I could not stand up and I was too exhausted and I felt horrific. And I'm clairvoyant. So I'd sit there with kind of my soul and my, I don't know, like girlfriend spirit on one side, looking at my life force on the other side. And they're like, that shit's going down. Like, you are dead. You're not going to make it. And I'm like, shut up. Like, this is not helping. I'm terrified, super anxious, but I'm so tired. I can't even really be anxious. And each time that happened, it was really irrational. And I thought each time I was going to die. Duh. But I got to the 5th time and I was like, wait a minute. To what do I need to surrender? And it came immediately. If you're not the mom to these children or the partner to this husband, it's okay. You don't have to be. And I could see another woman there and I was like, oh my God.
Oh my God.
But I let go to it. And I'm like, another level of, you're not so important. If you're needed, you'll stay. If you're not, you won't. Oh, okay. That's not on my deciding. And who cares? Like, I just get to live free, right? Well, then by the 8th time it happened, so the next times, the subsequent times it happened, I could sit calmly. But by the 8th time it happened, I was like, this is it. You bring me a video. There's YouTube, God. Like, come on, or an article or something that tells me what the hell is going on with my body so I can stop this. And a week later, I got a video from this place and it told me what was going on and it never happened again. So it's like, that's how it comes too, is when we invite these things. Like every time, I mean, my spiritual growth cycled like everybody's does, but mine would be like 2 weeks of fast and furious, slam down, hard ass shit. And then it'd be like, you're going to get a 2-week break. And I'd be like, no, just fucking bring it. Let's just keep this shit going. Right. So I wanted that growth to get through. So I don't know if I'm really answering your question, but I think that the whole thing there is your relationship with your intuition is a journey. And it's going to happen. However, and you can get in your head about it, but I will really stress that intuition is a sense. It is not a thought or a feeling. And so it's subtle, and it's so subtle. It's the thing that we're like, no, right? Like how many times have we been on our way to get in the car or get on the train or leave our house and it's like, take that thing, whatever it is, your umbrella, your what, no. Right? I do that all the time. I'm like, God, whatever. I mean, what? And then boom, I see I needed that thing. And the universe knew and it was trying to watch out for me, right? In a small way, just be like, here, hello, So it's heeding those small inklings is really what they are. And recognizing the energy you are experiencing is the essence of the imprint of the energy. So when I see, say in a reading clairvoyantly, at first, I see a cup. I know it's a cup, undeniably. That's our heart field to some degree too, the discernment and knowing. But then I can tune in to a deeper level and say, well, tell me more about that cup. I don't even have to say that. And it's like, oh, it's a white cup. Oh, it's a Starbucks. Okay, what about Starbucks? Or it's a mug and it's for tea. So these are the ways we simply ask questions and move through that essence of the imprint, and it feels unique. It's a different way to do it. It's like, and I can easily know the difference now, but it took a lot of years to get that finesse of, that's the difference. It's like an athlete. They train so much that when they're on that bicycle or they're throwing that thing, they will hit the mark. Same thing with intuition. If you practice and practice, and I say to my clients, in 10 years, the reader I'll be. Okay, so I have a lot of years under my belt with this, but I'm working hard and hard and harder at this. And in 10 years, I'm going to be off the rails even further. And so attend to it, because in 10 years, if you attend to it, even mildly, you're going to be a lot better at it.
Right. Like anything else, it's just a muscle. You just have to work with it and be open to it. When you're comfortable, find you're comfortable. I absolutely adore that you have forged your own path, that you have just found your answers. And it so resonates with me, honestly, the way that my life has been, that I'm like, oh my gosh, there's someone else that's been through this just like me. This is amazing. And so I want our listeners to know you are not alone. Look at us too, like there's plenty of us out there and we're all here to help one another.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm, for sure. So we're coming to that time in the show where I ask this one really big question. Are you ready for it?
I hope so.
Okay.
It's already flooded with like, oh my God, what's the question going to be?
Right? I do that on purpose. What is one thing that no one knows about Amy?
What is one thing? Oh my goodness. What? Maybe you pre-asked this, Jennifer, but I would say over the course of my life being sensitive, that highly sensitive personality type, I don't think people knew it. And I think that it is one of the sources of my greatest abilities inside, and also has been really one of the most challenging things I've had to deal with being. So people know it now, but so much of my life was spent not knowing that. And it really changed things. I mean, I had a bit of depression. I read a book, learned about it. Oh, that's me. And then I saw a movie about it. And I was like, boy, all the people who touched my life, like teachers and so on, it had to be really hard for them. I had an incredible dose of empathy and compassion for them. And then about 2 days later, I hit a depression of feeling like they didn't try very hard for it. They didn't try and ask the questions and work with me and be forthright. They judged and decided who I was and what I needed, and that I was broken and so on. And so that really is something that now, being aware of it, I can change how I think about my life, you know?
Yeah, that's so important. Thank you for sharing that. And it is. Being a sensitive it's challenging. It has its blessings, but boy, it's challenging.
Yeah, right. It is. It's a double-edged sword. It's the most beautiful thing, but I think in the current circumstance of this hilt of narcissism, it's really hard. Because we're so not programmed that way. We're programmed for connection. And it's about, I'm right, you're wrong, disconnection. As you were saying, Jennifer, you said it, the black and white, you know, the good and bad. And we aren't set up that way. And to live a long chunk of life in that, you know, it's a lot.
It is. It's very challenging. And that's, you know, just keep sending out that love and light every day. So
put it back inside too.
Right? Yes, I need to start putting it back inside too. And telling those energies, y'all need to go. We're not having any of that here. I love it. I love it. So Amy, if our listeners would like to connect with you, maybe jump on one of your workshops, where's the best way for them to connect with you?
Yeah, at my website, so amyvasterling.com. And you can find everything there. I also am sharing a link with you if you're willing to share it, Jennifer, where people can try out. I have something called the Wisdom Gathering, which is really right now for women. I might do a co-ed thing in the fall. I'm not sure. A lot of men are like, please. And I just think, I'm not sure I'm ready. But it really is for the deep thinker to have a space where they can be in a thought-provoking environment that really creates inspiration and really through self-discovery and intuition. And it just, the clients that I have that come to that say, this is like an anchor for me to know I get to come month to month, to know that I can come and get recentered and have clarity and re-engage that calm. And I'm floored, but it's something I've been doing a long time because I felt it inside. Like, I got to do this. I don't want to do it. There were times I paid to do it. I actually paid money. This is ridiculous. But I just kept doing it and doing it. So I've been doing it almost 5 years now. And it's really an amazing place for people to come and see they are not so different. I mean, that's really the message there is, you aren't alone at all. You aren't alone. Other people see you and get it. They're in the same boat, just a little bit different ilk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we will for sure, all of your links, everything to get in contact with you will be on our show notes. So everyone can head over to my website, jenniferpilates.com, and check that out. And everything will be there. So anybody that wants to get in touch with Amy can definitely do that and definitely join in. That sounds like an incredible experience. I'd love to do that myself.
For sure. I'd love to have you, Jennifer.
Yay! Yay, Soul Sisters. Well, Amy, thank you so much. I'm so honored for you to be here today, sharing your beautiful energies and your insights. Thank you so very much for being on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed my time. I truly appreciate it.
Oh, you are welcome. Well, as we say, until next time. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe to Empowered Within with Jennifer Pilates. Your feedback is important. It helps me to connect with you and gives me insight into who you are and what you're enjoying about the show. For today's show notes and discount codes from today's sponsors, head over to jenniferpilates.com. Until next time, may you live an empowered life from within.